to a certain point. So he's saying here that it was used in a business sense, but it was also used in a military sense. So in a military sense, it was used in the sense that if it was a battle, the battle was completed. It was finished, right? It was what? It was once it's finished, then there was victory. So that's what Jesus was saying. There's victory. You know, the battles are any battle with the devil and anything with sickness and disease and all that. He said it's finished. Tell Palestine, it's complete. It's over with. So, but it also is used in a judicial sense. Like if someone went to court and was sentenced. See, what he's saying is that when we were sentenced because of sin, and we had to pay a price for the sin, right? So he's saying, tell Epstein, I should say, that it's finished, it's completed. Our sin is now paid for. It's completed. So what was the sin that was completed? The sin of sin and death. So sin was taken. Sin's already been completed. You don't have to. When you said something about laboring, you say no. You don't have to labor anymore because it's already been completed. It's already been finished. Why? Because of the cross, because of his crucifixion. In the book of Corinthians, it says the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to those who believe it is the power of God unto salvation. See, we're always trying to labor to try to get God to do something. That's why the law doesn't work. The law doesn't work because he's saying, no, you don't have to do anything. Jesus completed everything on the cross. You don't get something because like I said, you don't get something. You have to look at the scripture. You have to see what did remember the thief? There's two thieves on the cross next to Jesus, right? Two of them, and they were murderers and they were robbers. So they did something that caused them to be crucified. Well, the Roman crucifixion was awful. So these two men are on the cross. And Jesus is in the middle, and one knows that he's guilty of a crime, but the other one says, "Listen, don't you fear God?" He said, "We're guilty. We committed these crimes, so now we're being judged. So the punishment that we're getting is justifiable. We deserve this punishment, but this man is innocent. Jesus didn't deserve to be hanged on the cross." So he said, so the one says to Jesus, remember me when you get to your paradise." And Jesus says to him, he doesn't say, well, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta be baptized in water or anything like that. He just says to him, listen, today you will be with me in paradise. Because he knows that he's going to go to the cross and die for their sin. See, we're always trying to condemn people because of some things that they have done and make it seem like somehow they're going to get to heaven based on their self-righteousness. They're so good. Now the Bible says this: we all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, right? So you can't do anything except what Jesus did for you on the cross. To America's kingdom, said, no, you don't have to do anything. The only thing you have to do is believe. Have faith in God. Then he said, let not your heart be troubled. Let not your heart is implying that you have something to do with it. Either you can let it be troubled or you can let not it be troubled. So we have circumstances that say, listen, God says all things are working together for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So again, we have to have this consciousness about what Jesus really, what he accomplished on the cross. So this is what he's saying. It is finished. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to be baptized in water. You don't have to speak in tongues or any of that. All you have to do is receive. Just receive the grace. That's what grace means, unmerited favor. So that is, you just did it. That's the favor that we receive because he gave it to us by being crucified on the cross. So he's telling us that, you know, the church is in trouble today because they haven't received the grace, and because they're still laboring trying to prove to everybody else that they're better than everybody else, and Jesus doesn't get glorified by that. Remember we talked about that Jesus. I remember I said if you want power in your life, the only way you're going to get power is by what the scripture says. That God says he resists the proud, but he'll give grace to the humble. So the only way you're going to get power is through humility. And that's what the cross is all about. It says that he didn't condemn anybody or anything like that. Like somebody who said, I think it makes forgive them. For they know not what they do. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. And this is where we have to get to in order. See, there's things, remember, I've been talking about these things that if you want to really know what's getting ready to happen, you have to research things out. We've been talking about this man who, we talked about the only place that is forbidden for any country to explore is the place called Antarctica. Now we're finding out the reason why you can't, they made a treaty and it's the only treaty that they haven't violated. But the reason why no government can explore Antarctica is because there's so many things going on in Antarctica right now that the governments of the whole world, the governments of this world are not telling its people, including the United States. They're not telling us what's really happening in Antarctica. So what you have to research it. You have to research it. And remember we talked about this guy named Admiral Richard Byrd. He ends up exploring it. And a lot of things that, we just don't believe that our government would lie to us. But our government's been lying to us for a lot of years about a lot of things, about the whole COVID thing and about going to the moon and all those things. Now it's coming out that, the whole thing was staged. It was really a set, movie set that they so but we were like, oh no, it was, I remember my brother told me this years ago, I didn't believe it because what I saw looked so real. But now with technology and things like that, especially with this AI stuff now, I just watched something yesterday, man, blew my mind about Michelle Obama. For a while now, it's just crazy what they're trying to do, but it looks so real. It really looks so real. They had her on YouTube saying that, and what she said was interesting because they've been trying to, her and her husband for years saying that he wasn't born in the United States and that she was a transgender. And so she was on, they had her on YouTube, and they had her speaking with someone and congratulating whoever this person was because how he was dealing with the transgender community. And then she makes a statement, and it's so real. You hear her and you see her saying it about how proud she was of this person because, and this is her words, and being a man, you know, so they keep rolling it back over and over and over and over. And you know, when you see it and you hear it, you're like, well,
could have been AI.
well, it was AI. That's what I'm saying. But when you see it and you hear it, they put a question. That's all they want you to put some doubt in your mind. Say, look at this. Then they're trying to say that the kids weren't really their kids and all this other. They set this whole scenario up, and you know, and you're like, you know, but this is where we're at now.
I can't stand politics.
Oh, it is. I mean, it's almost scary the way things are happening right now because you don't know what to believe. If this is not your foundation, the Bible says if it were possible, even the elect could be fooled. If it were possible. And this is what I'm saying is that if you think you can't be fooled, then you're being fooled.
Yeah, are any of them good? Really, honestly, are any of them good? Come on. I think they're all messed up.
There's no one good. No, not one. Only God himself is good. So we have to be careful. You know, not just, you know. Like
None of them talk about God. None of these politicians.
No, God is not, you know, it's, you know, this whole thing that just happened with this, this football player.
Oh, Deion Sanders.
Well, Deion Sanders,
Shador.
that's in his family. That was another, that's all political nonsense too. But this other dude, his name's Shannon Sharp.
Who's that?
Shannon Sharp.
He's a football player.
Famous football player, Hall of Famer. But see, this is what's happening, and especially with the African American, anyone of color who has made money or making money or has money, the government is going after them. You know, you wouldn't believe the things that have happened in our country to Bill Cosby, Mike Tyson, Michael Jackson, Prince, all these people, you know, that we think died, and they give us all these reasons why they died. But there's so many things that are going on behind the scenes that, you know, because we just don't want to believe that our government is corrupt. But they are. You know, they're very corrupt, man.
And if you don't join the Illuminati, they find a way to take you out.
All these, see, this is what happens to these athletes. They're all part of the Illuminati.
Sure. And they sacrifice loved ones, and like Kanye, his wife was murdered.
Yeah.
I mean, his mother was murdered. It's like, what? Why would you want to do that?
You know, even, anybody ever been to the Statue of Liberty? Never been?
A long time ago.
Yeah. Well, if you go to the Statue of Liberty, and you look at the Statue of Liberty, they don't talk about it. You know, the thing came from the French. It's supposed to be a gift from the French.
Oh.
But really, it is a lot of deception behind it. So if you look at the base or the Statue of Liberty, and you look at the feet of the Statue of Liberty, it's really talking about slavery.
Really?
Yeah, because you look at the feet of it, and you'll see that has a big chain around the feet.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I've never been there. I don't know.
No, that's what I'm saying. You know, if you research it, then, you know, because we don't know. And that's why I say, when you say things like, I don't really, I say, well, to just research it for yourself. You see at the base of at the foot of the Statue of Liberty, there's a big chain around her ankles because it's about slavery. The whole thing's really about slavery. So there's so many things that we have to be diligent now and just say, okay, you know, they're finding right now, they're finding, you know, one of the things, other places that have not been explored, other than Antarctica, know what they're exploring now?
The ocean?
The ocean. The ocean, exactly.
So we only know 5% of the ocean.
Oh, man. See, this is where these, we call, these meridian spirits come from. See, they're finding whole civilizations underneath the ocean now.
Like an underwater.
Underwater, from thousands of feet down underneath the water. Just like in the Antarctica, right now, underneath the ice, they're
Like
finding
Atlantis.
Atlantis,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Atlantis, right? Yeah, they're finding all these things now, and because they've been hidden.
Well, there's movies on these things giving you
Right.
hints, but no
Right,
one's thinking.
These are civilizations that actually, what's the other one? Atlantis and what's the other
The
one?
Lost City, Atlantis, the Lost City.
Oh, there's so many of them. Goodness. Ancient cities. You know,
Wow.
they're finding them underneath the ocean.
How do we get there? Through portals?
Well, that's what we don't. See. This is the problem. Is that we
Through
take the Bible.
triangle.
And we read the Bible, but we don't get revelation of the Bible. Like we think that Adam was the first man on the earth. You ever look at,
I don't.
you ever read the scripture and see, and you see things like, okay, when Cain kills Abel, right? Cain kills Abel, right? He kills him. And then the Bible says that, that there was other men on the earth.
Before the Lord?
Huh?
Before God?
Before
No,
Adam.
not before God. Nobody's before
That's what I'm
God.
saying, like-
God's always
Before
no,
Adam.
before humans.
Yeah.
Like there's other creations, and we think that the only creation is on Earth. But all these planets and things,
There has to be other life.
So there is, you know, but they're not like us. See, that's why we can never find a UFO. Because it's advanced civilizations. You know, at the speed of light, I think is 186,000 miles per second. These civilizations are much more advanced than we are, and they can travel through time by the speed of light, and that's why these portals are opened up. You know, I remember in high school when my accounting teacher was telling us a story about being in the service, and they were in the field, and he said that one of his friends was going across a field, and they watched him. They were walking across a field, and the guy just disappeared. And never was seen again. And so there are these portals that open up. You could be walking and walk right into a portal, and that's what happened with this dude, Admiral Richard Byrd.
That's where he's been?
No, he died. He died because they allowed him to come back and tell. Remember I said that they told him to come back and tell the governments of this world that they were not happy. These aliens were not happy with them because they, the atomic bombs and things like that,
That they're doing to the nation.
right, but we have to understand that it's also affecting their civilization too. You know, so they said to Admiral Byrd, go back and tell them that they could destroy us anytime they wanted to. But they were not happy with the fact that you know, they were using atomic bombs and things like that to destroy man. But no, there are things that we have to understand that we're not going to understand it because our natural mind won't let us believe it. That's why the Bible says you have to be, when you're born again, you have to be renewed with the spirit of your mind. So this is why it's the Holy Spirit that ends up revealing to us things that we didn't know. So you see sometimes you have to be careful because it can be mixed with, things of the spirit. There's not, everything in heaven is not good. And everything in heaven is not pretty. So, no, there's creatures in heaven that'll trip you. Like I said, I tell you all the time. And Troy said, one time the Lord gonna do that, but open up his eyes and you'll see that there's creatures in here right now that you can't see. And they're not all nice looking. There are beings in this realm of the spirit that,
How come they don't bother us?
well, they probably do,
Yeah, they,
but we don't know it. We because they don't just come and tell you all this, but they bother you through your,
I feel so protected by God and like covered, I don't,
well, that's what we're gonna have to be. We're gonna have to know who God is. And see, this is what go to Hebrews chapter 4 real quick. Remember we talked about this word, finish. Tetelestai, finish. No, so
chapter 4,
chapter 4, yes, and look at verse go to verse 7. Actually, go to verse 6. So it says, since therefore it remains that some must,
What chapter?
chapter 4, verse 6. Actually, go to verse 5. It says, and again in this place, let me go up one more verse 4. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 4. It says, for he has spoken in a certain place of the seventh day in this way. Now remember, there's a religious organization called the Seventh-day Adventists. The Seventh-day Adventists. But what Jesus really talking about here we think that Paul wrote this Hebrews, but we're not sure or certain of it. But he says, again, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world, for he has spoken in a certain place on the seventh day in this way. And God rested on the seventh day from all his works. And again, in this place, they shall not enter my rest. So again, he's saying, there's coming this day of rest, but there's also coming this day where there's going to be some who's not going to enter into it, because they're not going to understand it. So verse 6, it says, since therefore it remains that some must enter in it, and those to whom it was first preached did not enter because of their disobedience. He's talking about the children of Israel. Because they were just dealing by the law, and the law doesn't bring you into rest. So he's saying here that some must enter into it, to those it was first preached to, but they did not enter in it because of their disobedience. And again, he designates a certain day. And saying today, it was such a long time, as it has been said, today you will hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. For if Joshua had given him rest, he would not afterward have spoken of another day. Therefore remains a rest for the people of God. For he who has entered into his rest himself also cease from his works as God did from his. So he's saying, if when we, this, the coming day of rest, that will understand when he says it is finished. The judgment of sin and death has been dealt with. The battle with the enemy has been finished. It's not that God is going to, he's already done it. So if we really understand that we can actually manifest through the finished works of the cross, that's already finished. See, we've entered into this realm, but we have to speak from that realm. Speak from above, not from beneath. So he says that if we do that, then this is the day that lends you to this rest. So a lot of times, so the power of life and death is in your tongue. A lot of times we don't speak from that place that's from above. We speak from the place beneath, and that's why it doesn't bring us peace. Remember that the peace that we're looking for is the peace that surpasses understanding, and that's the shalom. That's what it said. Jesus said, I come to give you peace, not as the world gives it to you, but as I leave it. So we have to understand. Remember we talked about that we have to understand that it's through humility that we get power. We receive power through humility. And everything Jesus did was to show us the example of how to live this life. And he says that, somebody could be, again, saying all kinds of things about you and this and that. But he says you have to take the low road, not the high road, because when you take the low road, you're showing that you're submitting to God and you are humbling yourself, and then and it's painful to do that. It's not easy to humble yourself, but there's a reward when we do humble ourselves that grace will be given to us. So there's things that are happening in the earth right now, and you see it mostly through. Remember I said the two major governing powers in the world are what? Remember? What are the two most powerful forces on the earth right now?
Good and evil.
Good and evil, but what is it? Good and evil. What is the good and evil? And this is what he's revealing to us. The two most powerful forces on earth is one, government, two, religion. And I told you, or maybe I didn't tell you, that the guy that just passed away on Easter Sunday, the Pope, was prophetic. This Pope was a 266th Pope, right? Now the prophecy was that after this Pope died, that the 267th Pope would be the sign of the end of the age. That whole system is coming down. You see it happening now. The whole Catholic system is coming down. Why? Because Catholicism is based on governing everything, and that's its power. It's governing everything, but it's through religion. It's not through the spirit. And the Catholic Church has hidden so many things. Remember I told you the story about what they found underneath the Vatican?
What?
45 miles underneath the Vatican. They found 45 miles. That's like from here to Albany. 45 miles of in like a vault that just kept going forever of ancient books that they had been hiding from the rest of the world. Talking about aliens, talking about.
I heard awful things about the Pope.
Well, this Pope, you know what happened to him on his deathbed, right?
I heard he was not a good man. Why do people mourn these people that aren't good?
Well, see what happened to him the night, the evening that he passed away. They was listening outside of his door, and they heard him screaming. And what was he screaming? Get these demons away from me. They're trying to take me down into hell.
For what he's done, right?
Well, But again, I don't know if it's so much the person as it is the system. You know, because a lot of these popes are not good people.
Right, so
You know,
why are you representing the Lord if you're not good? Who are you to do that?
Well, there's a lot of, again, false prophets out there that use the name of the Lord in vain. That's why he says, don't use his name in vain.
Right,
What does that mean?
don't say Jesus Christ
Well, no, that
in
doesn't.
anger, right? Don't say his name out of anger.
That's right. But in vain means what does vanity mean? Emptiness. Don't say that God can't do this, God can't heal
Right.
you, he can't. No, don't do that, because then he said you're speaking in vain. Because God can do anything. Says
Right.
he can do all things, right? To them that believe.
He'll humble you quick.
But so again, a lot of things started in the Catholic Church. I mean, you think about the Crusaders and things like that. It was all based on killing things like
Yeah, you
that.
go to hell for everything if you're Catholic.
Yeah, no, but that's because they didn't understand grace. No, it was about works. You have to do this, you have to do that. Remember I told you last week, I think I said, what do you think the whole thing, I remember I had friends of mine who were Catholic, and what do they have for dinner every Friday? Fish. But they didn't realize they were worshiping a pagan god called Dagon. Dagon was a pagan god of half fish, half man. So they made it a doctrine that, okay, like somehow that was spiritual.
Right.
That was we're gonna have fish today because
It's like telephone. By the time it gets to the people, it's the wrong thing, and now they're doing the wrong
That's
thing.
why see back then, why do you think only the priests were allowed to they're the only ones that were allowed to give a sermon in Latin. Why? Because they knew the people didn't understand Latin. So they could tell you whatever they wanted to. Because you didn't understand Latin. And so they again, it was control. That's how they control people. It's like in the day of slavery, they didn't want blacks to read. So all these things are going to be revealed. There's so many things right now that are being revealed about. Why do you think all these people? I just heard another thing about this guy in Ohio. He has a huge church in Ohio, and so they just showed a picture of him. And I always wondered why this guy, because he had a church that pretty liberal church, a pretty liberal church. But now I understand why, if this is true, that what you're saying is that this guy coming out saying he's gay now. That's interesting, So I think all these things are being revealed, and I think it's a mockery. God will not be mocked. He's not going to be mocked. So I think, and again, I don't know how much truth there is to it, but I just think that things happen for a reason. So we have to be careful that, we're not falling into the snare and saying, okay, listen, I think that everybody has a right to hear the gospel. But that doesn't mean I have to accept everything either. I don't. You can love everybody without accepting everything everybody's doing.
Right.
So I think we have to be careful, and I think again we have to use wisdom to make sure we're not judging folks because we don't think like them.
It's hard.
And I think it's sad as well. I think it's just too many ideas are being put in our minds that this is
Confusion.
the way it goes. Walk ye in it, and that's what the enemy wants to do, is confuse us. But you have to have your own relationship with God. And again, it's all about truth. It says it's the truth that's going to set you free or make you free. So we have to be careful. Let me ask you a quick question before we leave. What is some of your biggest struggles right now? As far as church, religion, or whatever, or spirituality, what is some of your biggest struggles? Understanding. Okay? Book of Ephesians, chapter 1, verse 17, 18, 19. Says this, and I said, God is just not going to give you understanding, because understanding is a spirit. It says, so you need to pray for the spirit of wisdom, revelation, knowledge, and understanding. See, all those are spirits. Wisdom is spiritual, knowledge is spiritual, and revelation is spiritual, and understanding is spiritual. So he says you have to ask him. He says whatever you ask him, he'll give it to you. He says pray for it. If you pray, he says I'll give it to you. Whatever you ask me, I'll give it to you. So I think that sometimes we just think, oh, it's going to happen. No, it doesn't. In the book of Daniel chapter 2, verse 20 to 23, it says this: blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. He changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings, and he raises up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals deep and secret things. He knows what is in the darkness, and light dwells with him. We thank you and praise you, O God of our fathers, for you giving to me what I've asked of you, that I make it personal. You're giving to me what I've asked of you. You've given to me the king's man, which is the king's word. So that word, the word, when we pray these prayers, it's spiritual, and so it's supernatural. And then you have to begin to receive it, because it's not going to make sense up here. So he begins to rain down on you. He begins to send the rain, and that rain is like we talked about the whole story of the prodigal son. I wish you guys can get that. Really understand what he's talking about when he's talking about the prodigal son. I've heard great preaching on it, but most of it's not right, because we think he's talking about two sons that were at home with the father. Two sons that were home with the father. One left to go into this world and spend his life on riotous living. But the older son stayed home. But who are they? Because see, we tend to look at it in the natural, but he's not talking now. Remember, the Bible is spiritual. So he's talking naturally, he's talking spiritually. The one who stayed home was Satan. Satan was here before Adam. So Satan stayed home. Adam leaves his father. Remember, he fell, right? He fell. He went in. Where did he go? He went in. Remember, he said, God said he breathed breath of life, and he became a living soul. So to become soulish means that you live your life now based on your mind, your will, and your emotions, not by the Spirit. That's why Jesus has to come to what? To rescue Adam from the fall. So the whole story is powerful when you look at the one who left, and he goes and he ends up in a pig pen eating pig slop, and then he realizes, hey, I was better off back home when I was with my father. So he realized that, hey, I'm gonna go back home. So he goes back home. The father sees him from afar, runs out to him, tells one of his servants, hey, he does some interesting things. He said, listen, first thing he tells him is to go get me the best robe. The best robe. So the reason he says the robe, because the robe represents a covering, right? So it's covering. So Adam lost his covering, which is the glory. He lost the glory of God. So he goes home, and the father says, give me the best robe. He puts the robe on him. Then he says to him, okay, go get a calf. Go get a calf, because we're going to have a feast. Now the calf represents the lamb. The lamb is Jesus Christ. So that's what we're supposed to be doing. Just remember, that's what communion is all about, eating his flesh. Remember they said, oh, you're demonic. What do you think we're supposed to eat his flesh now? But he's telling, that's the communion. So he's saying, listen, we're going to have a feast here, and the feast is going to be eating the word of the lamb, which is Jesus. Then he says, the third thing he says to him is, go get a ring. Go get me a ring. The ring, what is Jesus coming back for? He's coming back for a bride. So the ring represents marriage, right? So he's saying, listen, give me a ring. I'm put the ring on. Now he says, let's have a party because my son came back home. He was lost, but now he's found. So we're gonna have this. It's the second coming. It's a marriage supper of the Lamb. He's talking about a bride. So he says, but it's all spiritual. You can hear all these daggone preaching, and again, that's what I'm saying. It's soulish preaching because it makes you feel that people are screaming, hollering, but they don't even know what they're screaming, hollering about. You know, again, it's finished. It's finished. God's saying, I'm going to accept you, even when you went out into this world and did stupid. I'm still going to accept you, right? I'm still going to accept you, but he's so happy that we're coming back home. We're getting the true spiritual word. Remember, I talked about 144,000 Jews that we said they were Jews, but they're not Jews. You always have to go back to the beginning of the Bible, because he never told the Jews to do what? He never told the Jews to replenish the earth. He told Adam and Eve to replenish the earth. So Adam and Eve they didn't go anywhere. Their flesh has disappeared, but their spirit is still here. They're the ones who God has chosen to replenish. How do you replenish? To replenish means that you're going to again feed God's people the truth of the word, and they're going to enter back into the paradise. They're going to enter back into the paradise of God. So we have to begin to think differently, not just think religiously. No, you don't have to do anything. It's already finished. It's already finished. So he's saying, listen, all you have to do is receive it. Speak it. Speak that it's finished. Like this whole COVID thing and things like that. No, it's already finished. It's already been what? The judgment of that has already been taken care of. You know, the penalty of sin and death has already been taken care of. It's finished. He took it on the cross in his own body on the cross, so it's finished. So we don't have to. We just have to renew our mind and start thinking about what that really means and the power. Because again, the pride that we have right now is just running rampant. There's too much pride. That now remember I told you about the human condition. The human condition is very important. The human condition is you know, and when people understand the human condition, you'll see it in your own life. Remember I said it starts out with competitiveness. And it goes from competitiveness to being selfish. Know what the word ish means, right? Ish. Self-ish. Self-ish. Ish means man. So self-man. It starts out being competitive, selfish, and then becomes aggressive. You see this whole thing that just happened with Shannon Sharp and all this stuff. You see the human condition. I mean, you see this. It's all about. I mean, even this young lady that is involved with all this stuff. You see the human condition. It starts out with, okay, maybe they had some type of sexual thing going on or whatever, but then you hear the recordings of him and talking to her, and you know, now he's what? Because of his own lust, his own sexual lust, he gets himself caught up in this thing. He's getting ready to get $100 million payday. $100 million. So again, remember I said the devil comes after you. So he's getting ready to get $100 million, and apparently this girl who was probably 19 years old, this guy's 56 years old, and now they got him on tape, and now he's caught. He's caught because they got him on tape, and so now you know, all this stuff coming out about this whole sexual thing into 19-year-old girl, and on both parts though, on both parts. You see the selfishness, now you see the competitiveness, you see the selfishness, now you see the aggression. Because all of a sudden, this little sweet 19-year-old, she's on the phone saying that, okay, you know, now it started out she wanted $10 million. And he offered her $10 million to keep quiet. And now he's talking to her on the phone, and you can see, okay, he just wanted to have some type of sexual relationship with her, and selfishness. And now he gets caught, and now you hear him on the phone, oh, you know, I'm going to choke you. Next time I see you, I'm going to choke you. I'm like, listen, now you see, it starts out with the sexual thing he wants. Then
You can't find a grown woman to do
no,
that.
that's the whole thing. That's the whole
You
thing.
find someone that could be your child, like that's.
Exactly, man. A 19-year-old girl, man. Listen,
That's
I got
so
a
gross.
my daughter's 19. I'm like, are you kidding me? But you hear the human condition in him and her. Now, because he
Right,
gets
she's
caught,
not innocent.
because of his selfish act, his sexual act. Now he's you see the the competitiveness, because now he wants to see, he wants to be seen as some type of sexual goddess or something, and then that's his competitiveness. He becomes selfish because he wants sex, and then the third thing, when he gets caught, now he's going to become aggressive. He's going to say, okay, now I'm going to choke you. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Now he's threatening the woman. But she's doing the same thing now, because you know, what's this thing they call it? She was a part of some type of, I don't know, some type of groupie thing, and
Prostitution.
she got, huh?
It's like modern day prostitution.
Almost like that,
Yeah.
but again, selfishness. So she was getting what she wanted to, and to the point where he starts threatening her. Then she starts saying what? She starts getting aggressive. Starts out with 10 million now. You know, no, it started out with 50,000. She said, I'm gonna give you $50,000 a cheek. One cheek gonna cost you $50,000. So it got crazy. So you begin to see the human condition, just like I said.
It's embarrassing, and it's all over for the
It's
public.
sad. But if you don't see that in yourself, I see it in me as far as being an athlete. Yeah. What does being an athlete do to you? It makes you competitive.
Aggressive.
And then you want to be the best you can be. Now you becoming selfish. I remember when I was playing ball, I was like, hey, I want to score. I want to be the high scorer of the game.
So no team, like.
It becomes selfish.
Yeah, you get mad at your players.
It's like the same thing happens with the church. What's wrong with the church now? It's all about competitiveness. It's all about selfishness, and then you become aggressive. No, come to my church because I'm doing it. I'm doing it. No, this is what the human condition is about. You know, and so you have to see it in yourself first. When you see it in yourself, then you say, no. Because you see where it ends up. It's not going to be good. It's not. This dude came and did what he did here. That's what it was about. He betrayed me. Why? Because he was selfish. The dude was selfish, you know. And then he became what? He became aggressive. He's having meetings with my people behind my back. You know, I mean, it was. I said, look at this. This is crazy. But if people, if you don't have understanding, if you don't have wisdom, then you're blinded to it. You don't see it. You know, and I said it can happen to anybody. And pride will make you think that it can't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought this could happen to me.
Right.
Never. I never thought this could happen to my marriage, my family. I never thought, no way, man. You know, I'm serving the Lord. You know? So, but the bottom line is that if you're resting, if you're resting, knowing that the work is finished, then you're at peace. The devil can't kill you because you're at rest, you know. So I think you know that's what he's saying. It's finished. It's finished. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. God's got you. He's got you. You know, so and you know, there's no better place to be than in the hands of the Lord. No better place to be.
Right.
And like I said, all things are working together for good. Because sometimes it don't seem like, because it doesn't feel like it. That's why you can't go by your feelings.
Right.
You can't go by that.
Walk by faith.
That's what faith is. Trusting something you don't see. You can't see faith. You have to know faith. You just have to know. But I think that you know, we're heading into some interesting times, and you know, we're just going to start to see things and experiencing things, especially with the other dimension. We're going to start to see more things manifest with these UFOs, and I'm telling you, somebody's going to come soon and tell you they see these creatures around. I said, because sometimes the Bible says you're entertaining angels unaware. Sometimes there's people around you that are not even human, and you don't know it. These reptilian creatures can disguise themselves as human beings. They can make themselves look just like one of us, you know, but they're not of this world. So yeah, you know, you can't be so certain that you know everybody that's around you.
I want to be able to see. I want to be able to know.
You'll know.
Where to go.
Listen, you'll be. I can tell because I can feel in the realm of spirit. I can feel. See, children can do that. Animals can do it too.
Yeah.
Animals are very spiritually sensitive. Children are as well. Like I said, if you have a little child and somebody's around the child and that baby starts crying, pay attention to it. And you can do the same thing. If a child is just joyful around somebody, you can trust that person. If that child is crying all the time, I remember my daughter Faith, I remember she went into the school one day and she just stopped. She would not move. And she kept staring down the hallway. And I said, what the heck's wrong with you? She wouldn't move. She saw something. Right in the school. So you have to pay attention to it and really listen to your children. Pay attention to them. So any comments, questions, or concerns? Is all right? You understand it now? So I have a huge book home that I look up. I look up all these words. It's called the Concordance. It's pretty, I started to bring it today, but it's pretty thick, you know. So it's like, oh, that's interesting. Now the whole thing, like I said, the military aspect of it, business aspect of it, I found it pretty interesting. Okay, so we're trying to reveal to us that it's no longer a fight. We can rest that the fight has already been won. See, Jesus fights the battle for us, but we get the victory. Jesus fights the battle, but we get the victory. And that's good news. You know, you're really.
I don't freak out anymore over stuff. I'm like,
Well, that's
God.
good. That's good.
Even if it's something that you think is impossible that you can come out of, I'm like, it'll be fine. Like, I don't even, oh my God, I don't do none of that.
Mm.
No point.
That's that, I'll talk to you, I got that.
All right, man, God bless you, man.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.
Talk to you soon.
All right, man. Tell Chris I said hello.
I used to go to that church, the Lutheran one back home,
Go back home.
the Lutheran church that Christy goes to. Good Shepherd. That's the Lutheran church his wife attends. Right by Coleman High School, there's a church by that gas station that burned down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I went there for a long
I used to
time.
coach Coleman for 10 years.
Yeah, I used to, when Pastor, I forgot his last name, it started with like a sound, he passed away, that was so sad.
Oh.
We stopped going after because the new pastor, Woody, was weird.
No, I've never even been in that church.
Yeah, it's kind of blah, more like chanting and
Yeah.
cult-like feeling.
Yeah, Chrissy,